Why is Superman punk rock? I'm going to explain to you why Superman is punk rock. Okay, in today's day and age, why is Superman punk rock? And people go, well, Superman's not punk rock. That's not what punk rock's being about. Punk rock is about all these specific things. I think in general, the ethos of punk rock, because if you go look back at it, they say, oh, it's a sonic thing. It's about the sound of a music. Okay, maybe there's that definition. And then I think that roughly correlates with energy levels, intensity, and catchiness. And I can bust out the chart for that. But I'm talking more about the cultural, the messages, the themes, right? Because clearly, this guy right, wait, let's see, can you see that? This guy right there is not a piece of music. He's an individual, or at least he's written to be an individual with a person with a themes and an idea and a persona and a personality. And he believes things. He holds things dear. And so we're talking about the ethos. The ethos was punk rock. And so let's just go through what people say. They go, well, being punk rock is about having these specific views and these specific things and yada, yada, yada. I think generally the term punk rock gets used if you're trying to be consistent with it. It seems for whatever is the dominant culture or the main thing going on in that decade or that time period or in that ecosystem or in that community that's, relevant, it is being countercultural. Being countercultural, at least in the way I'm using it, and I think that punk rock is, when it's actually its best form, is not being a contrarian, not just saying, no, I disagree with everything for the sake of disagreeing with it. It's having the courage and the strength and honesty to stand up and to acknowledge when the dominant culture is wrong, where, and why, and to be unapologetic and to combat that. That's what Superman does. Back in the day, it could have been, maybe everyone's overly optimistic and there's plights all around the world and people aren't aware of them. And maybe our culture was all people being numbed by partying and, we were printing a lot of money and we're living off the excesses of, kind of America expanding and the economic, realities of that. And we didn't have all of this news and all of these things live reporting from people across the world and across the internet. And so, yes, maybe ignorance was the main countercultural thread to be called out, the main thing to actually bring to people's attention, the main thing that would take integrity to stand up and talk about. That's not the world today. Maybe 30, 40 years ago, right? But what the dominant culture is and what our problems are and what it takes courage to call out and to stand up for, not to call other people out, not to admonish, but to acknowledge for ourselves and have the courage to admit it's being kind. It's being nice. We have a society that's based off of spiking your cortisol. What is that? Why am I saying that? Everyone says we're in the attention economy. You got to get attention from people. The number one way you do that on the internet with YouTube thumbnails, YouTube shorts, Instagrams, TikToks, all of it, is even the newspapers do this. Everyone does it. The most surefire way, and that almost everyone does, is they get you, they rage bait you. They get you, they fear bait you, they rage bait you. They get strong, negative, fear-based cortisol stress. They get a shot of stress to pop up in you. And then if they're being better about it, they then bring down that stress and that cortisol now that you clicked on and say, sorry I had to do that, but trust me, there was a good reason that I got you kind of worked up. It's like if someone does a surprise party or something like that and you go, I get surprised, I get scared. But if the party's worth it, then it's like, okay, fine. Or if someone got your attention and interrupted you from something and the thing they showed you was actually like really funny or really good, you'd be like, yeah, I know you interrupted me, but that was worth it. But if it's not worth it, if you interrupt people and it's not worth it, that's the problem. And so that's what we kind of got as a whole society based off of spiking people's stress. And most people don't bring your stress back down. They want to keep you hooked. They want to keep you on. They want to keep you going, right? And so I try and do a good part when I'm making videos and I'm thinking about things. And maybe I don't do it perfect all the time. But I try and always be cognizant of that. And I try and, not be disrespectful and not be rude and not waste your time and spike your cortisol and get you freaked out. Maybe I say something crazy off the top, or I say, Like there's a YouTuber who does fitness content, Greg Doucette, and he does this a lot. You know, let's say there's a controversy around someone, and people are saying, "Oh, The Rock lost all of his muscle," or The Rock didn't take any, or I don't know. Let's say, but there's something crazy like, let's say someone says Led Zeppelin are awful, and then you click the video, and that's the title of the video, and then he might start the video by saying Led Zeppelin are awful. They suck. Don't trust me. People are saying this. Now, I personally don't think they're right, but people are saying this. Let's figure out why they're wrong and why they're saying it, and let's dissect it, because I don't think they're right. So he'll say the thing that would get you worked up, that would get you fight or flight, angry, rage bait. You click it. He says the thing again, and then now he actually says his thing, and it's usually I don't agree with that at all. I don't like that at all, right? And so I do like Led Zeppelin. Like that ends up being, I guess I could start doing that. I guess I could find people, because usually what it'll be is you find someone saying something crazy that disagrees with on TikTok or something, or somewhere else on the internet that's going viral, and he makes that person's take, the person he disagrees with's take, but is very inflammatory and viral, makes that the title, makes that the thumbnail. You click it, he says their thing, and then he goes, see what this person's talking about. Then you watch the viral clip, and then he tears it apart and breaks it down and does this. And so, some people don't like that. Some people do like that. But our whole society, our whole economy, everything's shifting more towards this kind of cortisol, freak out, freak out, freak out, freak out. It's all getting fear-based. Look at my cane. Anyways, this is my pointing cane. I got it where did I get it? Let's see. Wait. It's good. It's Goodwill. The answer was Goodwill. It's $4. Anyways, Superman. Why is Superman punk rock? Because we live in a world where everything's negative and cynical, and everyone's cruel, and everyone's bitter. Because being negative, cynical, cruel, and bitter, you get rewarded for it in the short term. You get the views, you get the likes, you get the engagement, you reach more people. Because even if what you say, let's say there's 100% of the population and only 1 out of 100 people agree with you, and everyone else hates what you're saying. People who hate it are like, this sucks. And then it gets pushed out to more and more people. And then sure, undoubtedly, the 1 in 100 who actually agree say, actually, no, I do agree, and they like it, and they save it, and they send it to their friends. And then, but the people who hate it, that it gets pushed out to more people, and the people who disagree, the 99%, go, oh my God, this is awful. And they still have to say, this is awful. And they have to write that down. It gets pushed out. So, and that ultimately, if people are based on that and they build their platforms off that, they tend to be torn down. Now, either they convert that into something more positive over time and make more positive content, positive momentum, now that they have all those people who found them, who did agree, the 1 in 100, and they have their audience full of the 1 in 100. If they're not entirely consumed with hate and cruelty and vitriol, then, maybe they just genuinely have opinions that are different from the rest of most people. And, that's fine. And so if that's the case and they're able to turn that into something positive, well, then maybe they have longevity. But most people don't. Most people rise due to negativity, cruelty, and things that generally most people don't even agree with. And then they just keep doing that. And they just keep, and this is being a contrarian. They be a contrarian or they be a rage baiter, right? But if there's nothing beyond the rage bait, it's the reason it's called a bait, right? It's like this fish in the ocean. You go, oh, I got one. I caught it, and I pulled them in. And then you got to have substance. If you don't, and you just have a rage bait, but that's what people get rewarded for, right? In the short term. In the long term, you get rewarded for having something substantive to back it up, having something real. But in the short term, it's rage bait. It's spiking people's cortisol. It's being as cruel as possible, or at least the projection of being as cruel as possible. Social media is not real life. Social media is the WWE. It's all optics. It's all, imaging and things. It's cameras. It's lighting. It's people saying things to get a response out of you and to get you to act a certain way and to spike your cortisol most of the time, right? It's not what people actually believe, how they act or what they say. It's a whole trick, a video game they're playing to get money out of you or someone else. It's a video game they play to get money out of you or someone else. It's not real. It's not real. Social media is not the real world, and because of that, you get a distorted reality. But either way, everyone has the distorted reality because all we see is what we perceive. Our perception is reality, right? Don't know who said that. Oh, I was going to say, shoot me, don't shoot me. Thank you very much. Be kind, and I want to be kind to you. No, but it's tricky trying to balance that. But I think in a world where the immediate thing that everyone's rewarded for is being cruel, and I wrote this down. Cruelty is its own coffin. Cruelty is its own coffin. Right? The people who are just cruel and there's nothing else behind it, they're just cruel and, vindictive people. These people, well, what do they end up with? They make their bed and then they lie in it, right? And they have a bed of roses and they lay down for 6 feet deep sleep. 6 feet deep slumber. Anyways, but no, so why is kindness the true punk rock? Right? And it kind of seems self-evident with that. Is this concept, that the world's missing out. The world's full of cruelty. That's what we experience. It's what we perceive, even if it's not reality. Your perception is your reality, right? And so, likewise, the solution could be just as simple as change your perspective and you change your reality, because the world is good. The world does get better. But it just might be as simple as that. We change our perspective, and we can change our reality, right? And so we perceive everything as being cynical. Well, first acknowledging that the social media thing is not real. Most of those people don't believe that, and if they do, it's the rare person who believes that, and half the time they just disagree with you, or they're purposely trying to spike your cortisol, right? The world is not actually this negative, cruel, evil place. And so why not change our perspective? Not only are we less delusional, as in our understanding of the world and the actual reality of the world that we live in is closer. Our understanding is actually more accurate if we believe the world to be a great place and a warm and kind place where bad things happen, but we don't let that define us. We don't let that define the world either, right? Bad things happen to us. We do bad things, but we don't let that define us, right? And we don't let the world be defined by the bad things that happen. We have to look on average, in generality, and we have to let that inform. And in general, the world is better, and it continues to get better, And so that's kind of where Superman takes us, right? In a world that's full of cynical people, and this is what I like about, the new Superman movie and the new DC universe. People go, well, why is Superman not the first superhero? Why is everyone so old? And it's the idea that, what if we start a universe, a movie universe, we start films, we start things from where we are today. This cynical place, this place of cruelty, of social media, of all these things, and none of these I'm saying are bad or good, but just this is what is, right? Should, could, or would, that's for others. I'll just think about what is for now, what's close to the chest, what's actionable, what I can control, and what's going to color my reality, and what's going to get closer to what the world is. Because that's the starting place. That's the origin of all of it, right? Is like, okay, can I be some amount of, I guess, more in line with reality, with my image, and less delusional? And so in line with that, I'm starting with what is. We are in this world. And so the actual Superman story that we're seeing, and I think we'll continue to see play over these different movies, is the concept that we start in this world, this cruel world, or at least that's our perception of it, and everyone else says, and then that informs how everyone else behaves to each other. Snide remarks, it's all, Tony Stark, quips, and being snarky, and all of these things, and, and being cynical, and, if you're nice and you're kind and you treat people well, you're being naive. It's like, no, maybe you're just being kind, because it's a good world. And you're lucky to be on it, and be a part of it and get to be a part of it. And you're grateful. And maybe you should be. Hint, you should be. Right? Like, maybe that's the truth. maybe that's the thing society's not really, maybe that's not really in vogue, but maybe it should be, right? And so I think that's where Superman ends up being punk rock. Superman's reflection starts where our culture is, the world we live in. And so he is being countercultural, he is being punk rock. But not only is he being punk rock for himself and for his world is a mirror of our world. And so it also gives us a blueprint for how to change our perspective and therefore change our own reality in the world we live in. I think that's why Superman is going to be a very impactful film. And ironically, the original name for the movie was Superman Legacy, but I think it will have an enduring positive legacy as a shifting point for at least certain sects of American culture. It sounds kind of crazy, but I think you can see it struck a nerve with people that, yeah, maybe kindness is the true punk rock, right? That's not because inherently kindness is what punk rock means. It means pointing out what's missing from the culture. What is culture getting the most wrong? The dominant culture, the one that feels, you could feel like it's oppressing, but you can feel the weight of culture weighing down on you, right? And you can say, where do I need to cut some holes to breathe? That's there. That's there. The cynicism, the cruelty. That's where you need to cut the holes. That's where you need to be kind, right? And you need to recognize that, kindness is the truth, And so, yeah, punk rock is about, pointing out where the dominant culture, And so whatever punk rock, people are going to argue with me at the bottom, I appreciate it. I also appreciate that words can have different meanings to different people and to different groups of people. And so maybe you have a different definition. You like to keep it that way. I'd like to propose this is an alternate definition, right? The only way new words get invented is people propose it and they start using it and they see if, people like it, if people agree, if people want it to go on. So I propose this definition of punk rock, not contrarian, but countercultural, pointing out where the dominant culture is wrong and why. So take that for what you will, but look at Superman back here. Wait, is King working? Look. Yeah. So my name is Connor. I make music. Punk rock music, if you will. Oh, let me bust out the punk rock thing in terms of music, because you're probably curious if you haven't seen my videos before. Okay, we're going to have a graph. On one side, going up and down, it's going to be how intense from 0 to 10, how intense or energetic the, song is, right? And then on the bottom, it's going to be how catchy or well-written or iconic or memorable the song is on average. Not just there's one good part like a Radiohead song, but the whole song is really good and memorable. So, see if I can hold this up for a second. Did you get it? Basically, punk rock is in the middle in terms of energy and intensity. It's above the halfway point. So you've kind of got like indie, blues, classical, all of these things are between 0 and 5 out of 10 on intensity. And then from 5 to 11, you get first, like from 5 to 8, you get, what generally gets called punk. And then above an 8 to an 11 is generally where people start calling music metal, right? And so, yeah, so punk rock tends to be stuff that's, well, here's the thing. Rock, though, as you'll notice on the chart, is basically I said, I didn't say pop or rock, right? I said on the lower intensity music, it gets called blues, classical, jazz, right? It gets called all of these sorts of things, right? Indie, right? Alternative. Alternative can be thrown on anything. And then you get punk as the next energy intensity level. And then you get metal, usually. That's how people tend to describe things based off of the music. That's a way to have predictive, right? This is talking about not being delusional, but actually having an understanding in your head so you can understand reality, or at least how people talk about things, how people discuss them can be predicted by that, generally speaking, right? And so likewise, if something's not at least a 7 out of 10 catchy, the average person, not a fan of that subgenre or that intensity level or that energy level, the average person, if it's not a 7 out of 10 catchy, they're just going to call it bad. But the person who's a fan of that band or that genre or that song is going to say, actually, it's punk. Actually, it's metal. Actually, it's blues. But if the lower intensity music is above a 7 catchy, people are going to tend to call it, oh, it's a blues song, but it's really catchy. It's pop. It's a pop song. It's blues as well, but it's a pop song. Anything that becomes catchy and it's lower energy just gets called pop. Anything that's catchy and it's higher intensity gets called rock. So if it's a punk rock song in terms of intensity, like early Green Day, but it's really catchy, like something off Dookie, it then gets called not just punk, but punk rock. Now, other people would say, well, Green Day signed to a major label, which was the dominant thing in the culture at the time, which is not countercultural, Connor. So then they can't be punk rock. And I could say maybe in terms of like messages and themes, you make a point. I'm just saying separately, just talking about music and how things sound and feel and they make your body move. Like if you're going for a run, you probably don't want to listen to music that's really low energy that puts you to sleep. You probably want to listen to higher energy music if you're going for a run, right? Hence that's where the distinction of the sound of the music, the actual music itself, not its themes, not its place in history, not its themes, its messages, but just the actual music itself as its own independent thing. If you didn't speak the language, you're from a different country, you don't know what it is, but you hear that. That's the intensity level and the catchiness, right? I got the motivation, my exploration. I sit around and watch the tube, but nothing's on you. Got me pathetic, got me what you will. But she don't like the one she's got. That's the patience lost its fun. You're flipping like bam-a-doom-ba-doom. You're my lip and lose my eyes. Take me away to paradise. And I'm born on you know but don't bother me. I got the motivation. Yeah, do. And that's what Superman brings in terms of vibes. Because, and I would argue the reason I would say, if anything, in terms of intensity and energy, I would say punk rock, and I would say from about 4 to 7 on terms of intensity, kind of where there's an overlap between the punk range and the indie, alternative, etc. range. That's where things get called indie punk if they're not catchy enough. Or they get called rock and or pop and or punk and or indie, a mix of that, right? So I would expect upbeat music to go and catchy to be something that would fit with Superman. Anyways, like, comment, subscribe, give it motion, whatever that means. If you want to check out music, if you like Green Day, go check out my band Black Licorice down below. Check out the song Fun Times. Check out Tell It To Me. You'll probably like it. If you like early Arctic Monkeys, check out the song Down the Drain. It's the one with the alligator. If it's the album cover, it'll just be off our first album. And yeah, thanks for watching. Let me know what you think. Agree, disagree, whatnot. And I appreciate it. I appreciate you. Seriously, I do. Oh, but that's not cool. You're being corny. I don't care. I care about you. And I appreciate you listening. I appreciate what you have to say. And I genuinely am grateful that you're watching. So, thanks. Have a wonderful rest of your night and or day. And I can't wait to see you next time. Let me know what you want me to talk about. Anyways, take care.